Hello everybody and welcome back to another screencast of Total OS Today. I just wanted to post a brief introduction to part 2 of the second TosCast podcast 2 that I did with Infinitely Galactic a few days ago. If you haven't already, please check out part 1. As you see here, it's on the channel TosCast 2 podcast with Infinitely Galactic. The main topic was Linux versus Windows, and then we talked a little bit about Apple, conversations, and a viewer question at the end. In this part 2, we really got off the main topic. I'm actually doing the editing now. And we talked mainly about the possibility of computers taking over the world, Apple, the iPhone, Mac OS, and various conversations like that. The doing the podcast was extremely fun for both myself and Infinitely Galactic, or IG. We spoke for almost 2 hours. It's like the saying goes, time flies when you're having fun, and for us it was fun. It seems like most of you, if not all of you, enjoy this kind of podcast. We're going to try and do this on a regular schedule. Now, he does live in Australia, which is a 14-hour time difference from here. The climate there is reversed. It is summer here, where I live in the States, and is winter there. But that being said, we will try and do this possibly once every 2 weeks. After we spoke, after we cut off the podcast, we did speak for a little bit more to talk about various future projects. We do have some ideas. If you have any ideas, comments, or questions for any future podcasts, please let myself or IG know. It's been a complete joy doing these podcasts, and I'm sure he feels the same way. Now, the one thing I've noticed about doing 2 podcasts already in less than a month, we can pack a lot of information in the time frame that we allow ourselves to talk, and it's in many ways it's better than doing a single video or a series of videos and talking about tutorials, news, or what's on our minds. I think in the end this is probably somewhat of a better way of doing videos. Let us know what you think. We will try to do one again here in about a couple weeks if possible. If you have any ideas, please let me know. And I'm actually going to take this short introduction and edit it into the TosCast 2. As always, thank you for watching, and as always, I will catch you sometime in the future. Movie, I thought, in my opinion. But I'm watching this and I'm like, you know what, here we are 2011. Could this happen? Could computers take over the world? I mean, have we lost some of our humanity with computers? And if we do, how far, how much, if it's even possible, how much will we lose to the point where computers, like the movie, like Skynet, or whatever, say, you know what, you've lost your humanity, we'll take over, thank you very much. You mentioned, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like, now
yeah.
we're laughing about it, but I mean, as if, maybe this is a topic for another podcast. But I thought, is it possible? And I'm thinking, yes, maybe not right now, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is, do we lose, it's like you said, these are machines, they're tools, they're not, they're a part of our lives, but they're not human. So, yeah, I guess it was going back to those generalized statements, Windows sucks or Linux sucks,
And
it's
making those, yeah, honestly, making those sort of comments isn't going to offend either system because
right,
let's all remember that they don't have feelings. So, we
right.
can't endeavor to hurt one or the other system's feelings by saying that they suck, unfortunately. It's a sad state of affairs, but it's
Yeah,
the truth.
it's not, those statements are not user friendly. Um, I just had another thought. Maybe Maybe Zorin. I have a vision of a commercial for the Zorin PC. Are you familiar with the characters, the Borg on Star Trek, where they say resistance is futile, you will be assimilated?
Yes, yes.
Somewhat. Okay, well, I just had a thought for a Zorin PC commercial. You have the Borg dressed with the, maybe with the Z outfit or something saying, "We are Zorin PC. Resistance is futile. Windows 7 is irrelevant. Ubuntu is irrelevant. You will be assimilated into us." It was just a thought, but uh, you know, we will add your biological and something distinctiveness. And anyway, those are one of the better episodes of the series. So I am somewhat of a Star Trek fan, but we are Zorin PC. Windows 7 is irrelevant.
Yeah,
Anyway,
right.
but yeah, I guess the point was, are we losing our humanity? I guess because these are again just tools and machines. So, but
Mm.
I think maybe we are up to a point. I mean, it seems like many people, without having their iPhone or cell phone in their hands 24 hours a day, maybe they feel naked or something's missing. It's like it's just a tool.
Yeah,
20, 30 years ago, my God, how did we survive? Ooh, well, I guess it's all part of the changing times. So,
yeah, I reckon. Yeah.
and maybe part two. Where were we? Oh, yes. On the let's see, topic of the iPhone. I actually purchased a used iPhone, the iPhone 3G,
Oh,
and
that's right. You were saying, yeah.
yeah, and here in the States, well, I'm on the Sprint uh, network, which is CDMA, and AT&T is GSM. So the iPhone, there's just no way, none that I'm aware of, to make it work on a different operating system per se. But I bought it because I wanted to use it for the Wi-Fi and for the music because it has a pretty nice, decent little speaker built in to use it as a portable MP3 player.
Yep,
So it
yep.
seems right, yeah. So it seems to work, and I'm sure iPhones are probably popular in Australia. If I had to guess, right?
Yes, that you are correct in assuming
Okay,
that.
okay. So I was playing with it, and it's my very first Apple product. I occasionally get requests, "Hey, do an Apple OS review or a MacBook or something," and then my reply is, "Well, when I become partnership, maybe one day I will." By the way, congratulations on partnership. You 100% deserve it. As an English major who studied a little bit of theater and film, I thought from the beginning your videos were right on target, professional, well done, and you deserve it. So I want to say that before I forget. That was also on my mind from the beginning.
Oh, thank
Um,
you. I very much appreciate it. Yeah,
you
that
deserve
it
it.
was
Yeah, I mean,
definitely
yeah.
definitely good for me, but hopefully it's not too annoying to have advertisements there. But honestly, I think although again, I'm probably absolutely bottom of the range as far as partnered
Yeah, yeah,
YouTube channels go.
yeah, yeah.
I think I must have only just sort of scraped over, but
Yes,
if and when the channel grows, then uh, whatever revenue is coming off
yeah,
that, and I assure you, it's not anything fantastic.
I know.
Um, is can be put to good use, hopefully.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, I probably. I mean, I'm not quite a partner there, but I'm sure to generate any kind of somewhat usable or substantial revenue, you probably need subscribers. Probably, if I had to guess, in the tens of thousands or views. In the
Yes,
multiple hundreds. If I mean, like, if that makes sense, but that's probably how it is.
yes,
Um,
that's correct.
Okay. But getting back to on the iPhone, so I was playing with the iPhone and I wanted to download a free app. I forget if it was Google app or Yahoo app, some kind of an app, and it was free. I'm like, okay, so I'll click free. Well, you have to start an account or create an account. Okay, and I'm looking at the bottom, and it says page 1 of 62. And I'm like, are you bleep kidding me? I have to go through 62 pages to create an account to download a free app. And I was thinking, should I call my lawyer? Should I hire a judge? I'm just, being silly here.
Oh, Steve Jobs. He's amazing,
Oh
isn't he?
my, for and it's now. Look, I understand they're Apple. They got the market and they can do what they want. It's proprietary software. It's not open source. This is one of the few situations where I would love for it to be open source, but it's not. But I thought I have to go through 62, mobile pages to download a free app, so I didn't do it. I
Mm,
like I
yeah,
like the phone, even though I can't use it as a phone. It seems friendly enough. It works. But, again, it's one of those things, when you're locked into a certain company that's not always good.
yeah,
Yes, Apple products are stable and they work, but, it's one of those little things where they're telling you, you do it our way or it's the highway. So,
yeah.
anyway, I did
And
not download the
honestly,
app. Yes.
yeah, honestly, as far as Apple stuff goes, it was actually interesting because it would have been a couple of years ago before iPhones and everything went crazy. I had an iTunes account, and at that point in time, you didn't need that much to have an iTunes account. And basically, once you have an iTunes account, you can have any other Apple account sort of thing. You can get apps, etc.
Okay.
But at that point, I'm pretty sure all I needed was like an address and an email address,
Okay.
and
Okay.
um, I think that was about it. But nowadays, if you try and and I've kind of held on to that because now apparently you need all sorts of stuff. You need like well, all sorts of credentials and details,
Yeah.
and you need like your credit card details. You're
Yes.
practically handing your life over to
Yeah.
Captain Apple, and so,
Captain
I
F,
mean,
yeah.
apparently that's supposed to make your life easier in the long run because that's what
Uh,
they're
mm,
streamlining the approach for. But
mm.
yeah, I
You
really
know
can't be
what?
fussed giving
It,
that sort of information away for music and for applications that are supposed to be making my life easier.
yeah. Maybe that little application where it requires 62 page, maybe Skynet taking over the world is closer than you think. It all starts with a little application with 62 pages, then it's the world. Well, I mean, there's a saying that the longest journey begins with the first step. This is not a journey I want to take, but
Yeah, it's true.
right? I mean,
In fact,
yeah,
one of the biggest complaints that people had towards Apple products like iPhones and iPods and everything like that was actually that you had to have an iTunes account and you had to have a computer to
yes,
set it up with.
yes,
So, like basically, whenever you bought one of those devices, you had to take it home,
yes,
be connected to the internet, and actually
yes,
activate it and
yes,
say, calling the mothership, this device is up and running now. We're tracking you, sort of thing.
yes,
And
yes,
I mean, I think the complaints must have been big enough because apparently now after the
yeah.
WWDC thing that Apple had just in the last like couple of weeks,
Oh yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
iOS, which we'll talk about in a bit, but
Yeah,
iOS 5 now doesn't require you to connect to another computer
uh,
in order to get the device going. You can just
okay,
start up the device, put in your account details, much like
okay,
Google Chrome OS or something like that. Just put in username, password,
yeah.
and it'll start syncing things and doing all that by itself.
Hmm.
So that is, I'm not sure if that's a step in the right direction or not because the account itself still
Yeah.
exists. Yeah.
Well,
And
it's we talked about it this before just like 5 minutes ago, but I just thought of like another uh, goofy commercial. We are Apple. You will be assimilated. Resistance is futile. So, um,
actually, speaking of funny Apple commercials, there's
yeah.
I don't know where it was definitely on YouTube, but basically it was just poking fun at the absolute market control that Apple seems to have when they bring out a new product. That
Yes.
they'll have people queuing up for miles and
Yes. Yes.
waiting for hours, waiting to get their hands on this new product.
Yes.
And I think it was when the iPhone 4 came out.
Okay.
It was practically a mock-up of like Steve Jobs doing a promotional sort of tour somewhere,
Okay.
and he was just in like a television studio audience, and he's
Okay.
talking about all of these fantastic features which are essentially unchanged from the iPhone 3GS.
Right.
and
Right.
and all the audience is just sucking it in big time. They're like, "Wow,
Uh,
this is amazing."
yeah. Yeah.
And then obviously then there is some sort of tongue-in-cheek references to reception issues,
Ah.
and then one of the audience members goes, "Wait a second, I don't want this. Why are you trying to sell us this? This is just
Right.
rah rah rah." And then the character or the actor who plays Steve Jobs just starts going into this like mental control time where he's going, "You will buy the iPhone," and then all the
Right.
audience go, "Oh, yes," and then some are
Yes.
freaking out, and then all chaos ensues, and yeah, it's
Right.
much like a Terminator 3, the computers take over. So
Well, yeah.
it's funny
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, there was when the iPhone 4 came out, you mentioned about the reception issues. If you held the phone at a certain angle or something, one like it would like the reception or the bars, the signal bars would just drop. You remember seeing that or hearing that with the iPhone 4?
Yes, I do. Yeah,
Okay. Oh,
it was even apparently more of a situation here in Australia than it was
oh,
in
really?
some other places. But yeah, keep going.
Okay. Yeah, so I saw it on the news, of course, and I was reading it. But then one of the local consumer organizations here in the States did a review. And I believe they said, and I'm pretty sure I'm not exaggerating, you can solve the reception problem by cutting up and wrapping the bottom part of the phone with duct tape. So I
Oh,
thought,
that's just classy.
congratulations, iPhone owners. You are now the owner of the world's first 4G duct tape.
Wow,
Uh,
that is just
and I'm
fantastic.
like, are you kidding me? Duct tape on a $500, $600 state-of-the-art phone? But apparently, according to their tests, it solved the issue. Now, I think what happened not too long after that, Apple got wind of what was going on, and they were giving free cases. Because I guess
Yeah,
if you put a rubber case, it wouldn't be conductive through your skin, which caused a signal loss or something like that. But I
yeah.
thought duct tape, wow, really classy. Anyway,
Mm. Yeah. Well, interestingly, as far as I mean, just a quick disclaimer to listeners: we are not, or at least I'm not an Apple fanboy in any way, but I
yeah,
do like to follow what's going on because they do
yes,
seem to grab a lot of
yes,
market attention. When Apple does something, the internet
yes,
goes wild over it.
yes,
So I think in that respect, they're worth following at least just to
yes.
keep an
No,
eye on them.
they are a
But
very successful company. They make good products most of the time. They deserve the attention. I guess they
mm,
deserve the sales. I don't like too much the proprietary, lock-in software stuff. Again, 62 pages just to download a free app. I don't like that part. But look, I understand it is a business and they're trying to maximize their revenue, which is fine. But
yeah.
yeah, they're a solid company and they deserve all the success they have been getting the last really since the first release of the iPod is when really Apple turned it around. So,
Yeah.
you know,
And honestly, I think especially with WWDC just going past, I'm in the past I've had some definite issues with Apple as a company and with the
okay,
fact that they kind of promote products which aren't really that different to the competition, but they
okay,
really crank it up to be something fantastic.
yes,
Um, but I'm not sure, but I reckon this time around, I really think they're starting to get a handle on where to go as far as future is concerned in some areas. In other areas, it's more of the same. This is only being changed slightly, but it's fantastic, so you should buy it. A good example is they always seem to take existing technologies and make them popular.
yes,
Honestly, there were MP3 players before the iPod. There were
yes,
smartphones that did all the internet and Wi-Fi and all that jazz
yes,
before the
yes,
iPhone.
yes,
Um, there were cloud computing solutions long before
yes,
iCloud ever
yes,
became an option.
yes,
But they polish it and they spiff it up and they make it something that the everyday Joe
right.
can access, can benefit from.
You
And
make a very good point. They took the ultra geek Star Trek far out technology per se, and they brought it down to earth in a user-friendly function for the masses,
Yeah,
uh,
that's right.
where you
And
don't have to.
especially, I think,
Yes,
especially with iCloud, honestly, especially us as Linux users, I mean, there are several comparisons that I'd like to draw between, Ubuntu or Linux operating systems and
yes,
Mac, the developments there. But iCloud, I mean, Ubuntu One has been chasing this functionality for, well, since like, is it the 9.10 release, I think? But
with
that was back in
Ubuntu.
2009.
Yeah,
I mean, they started this whole cloud thing back in 2009 on a
yeah,
consumer level,
yeah.
and now in 2011, Apple's finally jumped on board, and all of a sudden, everybody goes, "This is amazing!" It's like, yeah, well, we've had it actually for 2 or 3 years already.
Right,
But
right.
having said that, what they're doing is pretty amazing. I
Yeah,
mean, basically, iCloud is just like a single sign-on service which just
yes,
syncs music and movies and applications and emails and contacts and calendars all between every
yes,
single Apple device that you have, and all
right,
you have to do is sign in. I
yes.
mean, that is extremely, keep it simple, stupid for
Oh,
anybody.
it's that's why they work. It's very user friendly. I mean, look, that's the bottom line, I think, with any piece of technology, whether it's the Apple iPhone, Windows-based PC, Linux-based, keep it simple and try to keep it as bug-free as possible. If you succeed in
Yeah.
those two things, and Apple apparently has, well, that's why they're number one. So,
Mm. And then secondly, iOS 5 apparently comes with over 200 features, and that's basically just to
okay.
bring it up to par with Android because there are quite many
Right,
frustrating issues that Android users had
right,
uh, that were wanting to adopt the iPhone, but
right,
they, were saying it's too locked down, there's no
right,
notifications, that kind of thing.
right,
But I'm not going to get into that.
right.
What I really wanted to talk about was OS 10 Lion being the next, iteration of the Mac desktop.
Okay.
Um, and essentially, in my opinion at least, they are really copying quite a few things here from the Linux desktop.
Okay.
Um, honestly, they have this thing called Launchpad, which, apart from the name that we all know, is a place where developers can submit applications to a PPA and et cetera, et cetera. Apart from the pun on the name,
Right, right.
it's
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
like an application launcher, just
Okay.
like the Gnome
Okay.
3 app launcher, just like
Okay.
um, what's it called? I've forgotten what it's called, but the Elementary team have been working on an almost exact replica before OS 10 Lion was announced.
Okay.
Um, and also even the Unity Dash, in a sense, is also along a similar idea, just a quick visual button to launch your favorite applications.
Okay.
Uh, secondly, they're talking about full screen apps and workspaces, utilizing those too. And again, we've kind of had that for a very long time. They've
Okay.
just polished it and made it super simple.
Okay.
And then they've done just things to their applications, which their applications were pretty awesome as it was.
Okay.
But I think as far as like an everyday user is concerned,
Mm-hmm.
they really people generally take one look at OS 10 and on a Mac and they go, "Wow, that is very impressive," and they see it and they instantly either fall in love with it or go, "I can't understand that," and they walk away.
Hmm.
Um,
You think
but
maybe
I
it's too
think
much? Maybe there's too much good stuff, or just too many applications on it? Maybe it's just too much for the masses? What do you think?
I'm not sure. I think
Okay.
with the fact that now so many people are using iPhones and iPads,
Right.
um, I think that people will probably click with it when they get
Okay.
used to it. I mean,
Okay.
I've had comments on my page saying that this is good. It's kind of a little bit like Mac, but I find Mac too confusing.
Okay.
So, this is a good alternative.
Okay.
Um, but one of the biggest draw cards with OS 10 is just their marketing and and the quality of their products. And once
Mm.
people see that in action, just like they do with with the keynote launches that they always do. They always
Yeah.
show how the product works, how it functions. And honestly,
Yeah.
I really feel like this is what Linux needs. I mean,
Yes.
even if it was just Ubuntu being the poster child of modern day
Yeah.
Linux,
You're right.
for better or for worse, I really think they need to have one of these keynote sessions and
Yeah.
say, these are the features, this is how you can use them, this is what
Yes.
this is good for. Because
Yes.
otherwise, it's just kind of just or sit in the corner,
Right.
um, just as this obscure little geek project that some people
Right.
have heard about, some
Right.
people know about, but most people just leave it alone altogether.
Yeah.
Um, so, I mean, in honesty, a system is just something that you learn. And
Yes.
because of the fact we are creatures of habit, when we start using something, we just get used to it, and that's the way we want it to remain. And then
Right.
with slight innovations to make things easier, that's fantastic.
Right.
But if people have to make a choice between, well, Windows isn't exactly working for me, or I want to try something different, you
Right.
know, they go to a Mac because of the fact that they can see how it works before they buy it.
Yes.
They can
Right.
see the pros and cons of it before they get to it.
Right.
And before
Right.
they have to return it going, this thing doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that I think that's why it'd be great if Canonical or if Attachmate, the company behind OpenSUSE, would really be able to get some serious, press and public relations happening as far as
Yes.
demonstrating what
Yes.
Linux is capable of and what it can
Yes.
do. And I
Yes.
mean, sure, it's not for everyone, and
No,
and
it's not.
clearly Apple Mac is not for everyone either. They still
Right.
only have, I think, like
Right.
18% of the overall computing market share,
Right.
and I think Linux has maybe 5%. But
Mm.
clearly Mac is not for everyone. But I definitely think that the technologies are similar,
Yeah.
and I think they're capable. And if there was a company that managed to get behind one particular product and promote it, improve it,
Right.
demonstrate
Right.
it to the general public, I think
Right.
it would really take off.
Well, you know what? Maybe what will take off maybe is the Zorin PC. I mean, obviously, what you see, you like. What I saw, I've liked since well, it's been over a year now. Like I said, if they can come out with the product that is as close to zero bugs, that's been just everything just works. None of these little annoying power management issues or whatever. I think it can be very successful because, this will give the masses a choice and never ever having to worry about spyware or viruses. To me, that is a
Or iTunes
major.
accounts.
Say it again.
Or iTunes accounts.
Oh, iTunes, yes, yes, absolutely. So, I guess we'll see what happens. But yeah, here I am, a Windows user that's promoting Linux, or at least telling people, hey, there are choices out there. Now take me and multiply it. How many of me are there? Are out there in the
Yeah,
world or in the market? So I think Linux-based systems, or desktops at least, I think the potential for the future is there. Unless, of course, they're taken over by Skynet. But no, just kidding. But uh, I guess we'll see what happens. I haven't seen
yeah,
anything, you know, any latest word on the Zorin PC. All they said, I believe it was last month, that it's been delayed. So hopefully they will work out whatever issues they need to have to work out, release it, and I hope it's successful because I think the more and more Windows tried Linux, the more they will realize, boy, this is nice. I don't need antivirus. It's in some ways it is a little faster. Of course, that will depend, on the specifications and the RAM and the processor and all that. But it's, for me as a dual booter, it's nice to have choices, real choices that work. And for me
yeah.
right now, it's Windows 7 works, Mint, Zorn, and really Unity still works for me. So it hasn't. I don't think it's crashed once yet, not once. So there you go.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's impressive. And honestly, I mean, I think the Linux desktop as it is just boils down to how many people are using it, how many people are improving it,
Yes,
and how much their respective companies are getting behind their platform and really,
yes,
showing it to be what it's worth.
yes,
And there is always going to be issues as far as professional level applications
yes,
and et cetera, et cetera. But honestly, I think for the masses, as far as those who just, Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and, email
Yeah.
and photos and things like that, I'm really hoping that the Zorin PC, can really show up and do a fantastic job
You know what?
because
I totally agree. Yeah. Um, this
if we
is
can have
yes.
a
Yeah.
device that is guaranteed to work
Yes.
exactly the way it's supposed to, that it can be a real game changer, I think.
Yes, because really, it's I'm not sure how long Zorn has been in existence, but really in what, a year and a half, 2 years, a year and a half, in a very relatively short period of time, Zorn has come from nowhere to, last time I checked, number 23 on DistroWatch. That's saying a lot, you know.
That is saying a lot.
And I would love
Absolutely.
to say
Yeah.
it's all because of me. It's it's not, but yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's because of me. No, 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 I'm just being silly. But yeah, they're number 23, which I think is great, and I think they have a shot at the very least top 10, and maybe even number one.
Mm.
I'm not, look, okay, to all my listeners, I'm making a bold prediction. Toss today is putting half a foot in his mouth and say Zoran one day will be number one. Well, we'll see. So, uh,
Yeah.
if they do make it, they
Interestingly,
deserve it. So,
Interestingly, as far as DistroWatch is concerned, it's amazing how much traction Linux Mint has gotten. For the longest time, Ubuntu has
oh
stood at
yes,
the
yes,
very top of DistroWatch,
yes,
unconquerably so. Nowadays, you look at it, and actually, Linux Mint, if you look in the last month, the last week, in recent times, Linux Mint is actually by far the most popular. And as
yes,
far as over the
yeah,
last 6 months, the,
yeah,
the the stats right now, as we speak,
right,
I'm looking at them. The stats are 2,294 hits per day
okay,
for Ubuntu, 2,197 hits per
aha,
day
there you
for
go.
Mint.
Yeah, well, look, it's
So,
yeah, I mean, before Zorin, I was pretty much and still use Linux Mint because it seemed like Linux Mint was just a little bit ahead of the game, slightly more polished, less buggy, more user friendly. Not much, but just enough for me as a Windows user to say, yes, I think I will keep this. So,
yeah, yeah. And honestly, actually, something else I've just noticed on DistroWatch, PC Linux OS has just released their updated ISOs, which I've been waiting for the longest time for them to do because I've
oh
been wanting to
yes,
do a review of that, but
yes.
can't be bothered downloading, 700, 800 megs of updates when I first install it. So
Wow.
that's good. I'll have to get round to that.
Yeah, I think PC Linux is another one of those a little bit more user-friendly PC Linux OS, which was simply Meepus. I think is
Yes.
a little bit
Yeah.
more for Windows user per se, a little more friendly, works out of the
Mm,
box.
yeah.
You mentioned, I think on your video on Pardis, I believe you said everything worked out of the box, but you need a fairly hefty computer, if I recall.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay,
that's right. For
okay,
a modern machine with, 2 gig more of RAM, 2 gig or more,
okay,
and a fairly decent processor, etc.
okay.
Pardus was and still is the best out of the box experience as far as zero bugs and zero
Nice.
issues whatsoever, with a KDE distribution.
So
And
that
that
one
was
for you
that
had
was
zero bugs, really? Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
well, I mean, I used it for a good probably 2 or 3 months, and
Real?
I didn't come across anything.
Nothing.
I
Wow.
mean, there were just like I mean, there were sort of performance bottlenecks as far
Yes.
as KDE's 3D desktop effects.
Right.
Those were fixed with KDE 4.6, but Pardus was still running KDE
Okay.
4.5. Having said that, they've got their updated version coming out in like a couple of weeks. So
Okay.
that
Okay.
I'd say that'll solve all those issues. And
Okay.
yeah.
So
Anyway,
yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah, we're
yeah,
really trailing off here.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, this is part two of the podcast, random topics, unscripted, but sure. Let's see. Before we wrap this up, I think we have been talking over an hour, but let's see. I had a right before I got online here. I had a question, support question. Hey, how do you install? I should have. How do you install Linux in a virtual machine? And I wasn't sure if the question was meant for a Windows user or a Linux user. So if you would care to take a minute or two how you do it, and then I'll explain how I do it just to satisfy this viewer. I kind of promised he or she I might mention this tonight. So,
Yeah,
how,
rightio.
yeah,
Basically, as far as when I do a distro review or something of that nature,
yes,
I'll either do it inside VirtualBox or I'll just do the live system
okay,
after I've installed it or whatever.
okay,
Um, but as far as VirtualBox goes,
yes,
VirtualBox is the key, in case I failed to mention that.
yeah,
Um, and that's VirtualBox is available for everything out there: Mac,
yes,
Windows, Linux,
yes,
everything.
yes,
And then all you have to do is just, yeah, all I do at least is just run through the new virtual machine wizard,
yes,
point it towards the ISO file that you downloaded, the disk image,
perfect.
um, boot it off that, and test it. And if the distro that you are testing was kind enough to put in the guest editions, which are basically just a package of drivers that help it to work inside a
Yes,
VirtualBox,
yes,
then your experience will be very nice. If not,
yes,
you'll have to install them yourself.
right.
That can be a bit more challenging depending on the distribution. Don't try it with Fedora because Fedora has some serious issues in that regard.
Ah,
But for
okay.
most other distributions, I found at least, it's just a matter of yeah, installing those drivers just by clicking install guest editions. You double
Yes,
click a file and you're away.
right. Yeah, for me, for Windows 7, I use either VirtualBox, which of course is free. That is open source, and or there is a free version, or was a free version of VM Player, just a basic
Yes,
version,
yeah, I have used that. Yeah.
and it's in my opinion just as stable as VirtualBox, if not more, but just as good. Yeah, I just download the specific whatever OS, whether it's PC Linux or Linux Mint, download it. One thing I will want to say, make sure to whoever asked the question, or to everybody, make sure you have at least 2 to 3 gigabytes of RAM to make this work smoothly.
Ah,
It,
yes, I forgot to mention that.
yeah, or else, I mean, it can be done with less, not recommended. So you need at least that, preferably a dual core machine. Since I got my first dual core, it makes a big difference. So make sure the machine itself can handle the virtual box or the VMware. Yeah, but yeah, I
Mm.
download the ISO file, and one more thing. Make sure to the listeners out there, check the file, the MD5, I believe it's called. Make sure that it's not corrupted, because if you see what you like and want to install it, if it's corrupted, you will run into many issues somewhere down the line, if not trying to do it in a virtual machine. So
Mm.
check the MD file, make sure it's not corrupted. Yes, just boot it off. Browse. I think I click new. Browse to where my download of the ISO file. Boot off the ISO file. I mean, I'm trying to think at the top of my head. Install guest editions. It should be automatic. Usually in Windows 7, installing guest editions is automatic. If I'm running VM or VirtualBox in Linux, the guest editions do not always install automatically, and I don't recall I've ever tried to do it the other way, or the harder way. And I think there's some tweaking involved. I think you might want to fill me in on there. Is this true? It's not as simple as just click and install, right?
Yeah, it all depends on how the
Okay.
distro is set up. Some distributions behave better than others in this
Right.
regard.
Right.
Um, in the easy to use GNOME distributions like Linux Mint or Pinguy or something like that. Well, first of all, Pinguy comes with VirtualBox guest editions out of the box, so we
Nice.
won't talk about that. But
Okay.
Linux Mint, basically, when you click install guest editions, it'll come up with a CD drive on the desktop which says VirtualBox guest editions. So you double
Yes.
click on that,
Right.
it'll come up with an auto run prompt which says this disk contains software that is set to execute automatically. Do you want to
Okay.
do that?
Right.
You
Right.
say yes. You punch in your root password, and a little terminal window pops
Ah.
up, runs through a
Yes.
few
Okay.
things, and you're
Yes.
done.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
that's how it's worked for the easier
Okay.
to use ones.
Right.
But Fedora, I had to download all sorts of kernel development packages. I
Oh,
had to
forget
download
that.
like
Yeah, yeah.
GCC and all sorts of crazy stuff.
It's
So
not worth it almost. I mean, at least not for
no, it
somebody
isn't.
new. Usually, if the last one I did in Windows 7, normally it installs the guest editions like in the background quietly in Windows 7. If I have the VirtualBox in a Linux-based operating system, to be honest, if I click guest editions and nothing happens or there's an error, I just want to I'll just pass that and continue with the read because it still works. I just will not be able to get a full screen. It'll be like a block,
Yeah, that's right.
which works anyway. So to all my viewers out there who don't like the half the screen, well, now you know why. I have patience as a Windows user, but not that much patience. So,
Yes, you're not kidding.
and I guess I'm not the only one. But
Mhm.
anyway, Anyway, yes, this has been Total OS today from America and Infinitely Galactic from Australia. Thank you for
Yes.
watching and listening. And for my part, as always, as I usually say, I will catch you sometime in the future. And from my friend,
Hopefully not too far in the future when Skynet has taken over the world.
you will be terminated immediately. Thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you in TosCast podcast number 3.